Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's WinUI community call. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm Anna. I'm a PM on the WinUI team. I run our monthly community calls, and I'm really excited for this one. So let's just get into it. Let me get my PowerPoint here. All right, so a little bit more about our community call. It takes place on the third Wednesday of every month at this time may not be accurate anymore because we just had daylight savings, but it's at 9 a.m. Pacific. The next call will be April 21st. In the meantime, you can always reach us on GitHub and on Twitter. So as for the agenda today, we're going to start off with my intro. As always, we're going to talk a little bit about WinUI 3 Project Reunion 0.5 preview that was released last week. We have Andrew Clinic here today from the Reunion team to talk about how WinUI is shipping with Reunion. And then we have Uno Platform joining us to do our partner spotlight. And of course, we will have our Q&A section at the end. So a little bit more about WinUI. What is WinUI? It is the native UI platform for Windows 10. WinUI is built for today's modern hardware, devices, inputs, and it offers the latest Fluent styling. You can use WinUI to build .NET and C++ apps for Windows 10 devices. WinUI also powers the Windows and Xbox OS shells, as well as many apps and even platforms like Xamarin Forms, React Native for Windows as well. WinUI 2 is the second generation of this native UX stack in Windows, and it's built for UWP apps. It consists of the visual layer and the XAML framework in the operating system, as well as a library of Fluent-based controls and styles, and that usually gets updates trimesterly. WinUI 3 is the third generation of that native UX stack. It is currently in preview, and it consolidates the UX technologies previously built into Windows into a single decoupled framework, and it's made available for every type of Windows app. So let's talk a little bit about WinUI 3 Project Reunion 0.5 preview. This was a release that we shipped, I think, last week. It is the first time that we are shipping with Project Reunion, so that is super exciting. Andrew's going to come on and talk a little bit more about what that means in a bit. A few new features, a few new things in this preview release. In-app acrylic is now supported. The pivot control has been removed and deprecated, as I know a lot of you had thoughts and feedback about. I'll be talking a little more about that right after this. Preview features are now marked as experimental. So I believe if you use the preview features, you'll get a build warning. Let's see, and WinUI 3 and Project Reunion will now be supported down level to Windows 10 version 1809. And there is definitely some good discussion and a lot more info about this on the Reunion GitHub repo. So I would head over there if you're concerned or curious about that change. Okay, so you can get started at aka.ms/winui3/reunion 0.5-preview. That is our release notes docs. It gives a lot more detail on what exactly comes with this release and how to get started and everything like that. So one thing that you may need to do is enable WinUI 3 tooling. So this includes things like Live Property Explorer, Hot Reload, Live Visual Tree. If you're using Visual Studio 16.10, if you're using a preview version, then you will need to go ahead and enable this tooling. The instructions are up here. There's also an issue on our GitHub repo with those instructions in case you miss it here. Just make sure that you enable tooling because it's super helpful and when you're building your app, and it's great stuff you don't want to miss out on. All right, a little bit more on pivot. So as I had previously said, so we are deprecating the pivot control in WinUI 3. And this change was brought about in the last preview, which was the WinUI 3 Project Reunion 0.5 preview. So I want to talk a little bit more about it just because I saw that it got a ton of feedback, a ton of thoughts and questions about it. So I'm hoping to address some of those and just continue that conversation. So let's talk a little bit about why we deprecated the pivot control. As a lot of you know, Pivot was originally designed for Windows Phone. It was brought into XAML because we didn't really have any other navigation or tab-like controls at that time when we were first starting XAML. Pivot was designed and optimized for smaller screens. It was built for phone, but it was never redesigned or fully reworked for larger screens, which was a focus of XAML. Due to this, the behavior when you're using a keyboard, mouse, and even swipe on a larger screen had lots of known issues. Animations, the focus, and performance were all known issues as well for the team just because Pivot was not reworked for these larger screens. So, when this was happening, the team spent time investigating how we should further invest in this navigation space as a whole. And so after our investigation, we decided to invest in new feature-rich controls that, such as navigation view or tab view, and we chose to invest in those instead of investing in a fundamental re-architecting of the pivot control. So now with a lot of our controls getting visual updates, we had to assess and see, is the team's effort better spent investing on controls? Is the team's effort better spent investing in controls that we are actively recommending to developers, or on Pivot, which has been in maintenance mode for quite a while, and has been, noted in our documentation that it's in maintenance mode, and things like that. So we decided that our time would be better spent investing in the visual update for other controls. So that was the end of our investment, and so it was natural to go ahead and remove that from WinUI 3 as well, as WinUI 3 is the next generation, as you all know. So let's talk a little bit about our alternatives. Navigation view and tab view are core controls for navigation functionality that we're supporting in WinUI. Navigation view and tab view both are able to, be put at the top of your screen. They're really feature rich. But I know a lot of you had feedback and said, these controls don't work for me. That's the reason I need Pivot, because these controls aren't supporting my scenarios. So we hear you. I hear you. Our plan for the future is first evaluating all that great feedback that you guys are bringing us and bringing that into our discussions. When we gather around our virtual table and talk about what are we going to do next in this space, we really think about, well, our developer community said this, and that. We should think about that. And we are continuing to evaluate this space and actively investigating which controls may add more value to this space. So while we haven't made any decisions yet, the conversations are actively ongoing. For example, I put a little screenshot here of a proposal that Kat, who is a PM on the WinUI team, recently took over. It's number 2310. And the proposal is about lightweight radio buttons in a horizontal layout. So many of you guys may know Kat on GitHub or Twitter. Definitely take a look at this proposal if you're interested in Pivot, and feel free to open up your own proposals. We're actively investigating what would really add the most value here. So I hope that clarifies things a little bit. As I said, keep the feedback coming. We'd love to hear what you think. So now we have WinUI and Project Reunion, and I am going to pass it off to Andrew, who is the lead on the Project Reunion team, to talk a little bit more about this.
Hey, thanks, Anna. I think it's the first time I've talked to this group, so I do appreciate the time. And we realize that WinUI becoming part of the shipping process with Project Reunion is, for some, a surprise, but also a significant shift for many people. And, it really comes down to, and I apologize, Anna, I can't actually see what slide is on, but if we can do this slide.
Oh, sorry about that.
Slide. I'm completely colorblind. So there's experiences, which clearly WinUI is a huge part of. But really, we want to evolve our app model for Windows moving forward that includes all of our technologies. I mean, WinUI is a major part of that. But there are lots of other capabilities that we're bringing along to really unify our app models and infusing the UWP capabilities, which obviously WinUI is really helping with, into Win32, so developers don't have to make that choice. You can just choose about building a great Windows app. And then decoupling from the OS and enabling you to get all access to all your customers is super important, and that's a key part of what we're doing with Reunion. And of course, we want to be great for your productivity and to really engage in the open with the developer ecosystem. And I think the WinUI team really kind of helped us on that journey in terms of calls like this. But hopefully, you're seeing if you follow us on the Project Reunion GitHub site, we're really striving to make all our decision processes out in the open, and we really want to get your feedback before we make decisions, so that you will be part of that decision process as well. So Reunion is clearly a project name right now, but is really for us to kind of move forward and to really essentially build the next Windows platform, and bringing everything along with it. And WinUI is key on that. If you go to the next slide, Anna. And the question I get asked a lot in the last week is, well, why is WinUI in Reunion? And to me, the answer is, well, how could Reunion exist without WinUI? WinUI is kind of fundamental to building any great app. And when we think about why WinUI, we think about these four kind of major areas that we're investing to what we believe builds great Windows apps. And of course, it always starts with the user experience, and clearly that's WinUI. But great system performance, being optimized for your hardware, but also how do you actually get your application? How do you deploy it to your customers? Are key things to do. The next slide, Anna, just quickly. There we go. So when we think of this and we think about the features we're bringing along and like building out this platform, building out this new mechanism for delivering the platform technologies to you to build great apps. It's what we think of. Now, obviously in the UX is WinUI 3, but WebView 2 is a huge part of that. And windowing and how can we make that better? But other features that are not entirely WinUI, but obviously clearly very related, like application lifecycle. How do we ensure that you can get activated properly? How can you respond to battery events so you can actually really think about delivering great applications? I'm sure many of you are on laptops now that are kind of plugged in 24/7. And it's not really just about battery life, it's about power consumption. How can we reduce power consumption? I don't know about you, but I've got 3 kids at home now on PCs all day. My power consumption is going up. So when we think about our responsibility to be building better experiences, ensuring that we can reduce the impact is really important. And that often means optimizing for device hardware. ARM64 is a huge part of what we're doing, really ensuring that everybody can deliver applications on ARM. And then, finally, thinking about how we can do application packaging, and you see that with MSX, with WinUI 3 right now, but also this framework package deployment, such that we can actually deploy, you can take dependencies on technologies we're delivering, be that WinUI or any of these other technologies, and the system will deliver those down for you. And really thinking about disk space and memory optimization. Many of you are probably running on pretty decent machines developing on, but a lot of our customers are running on 4 gigabyte machines, maybe with quite minimal disk space. Certainly in the education arena, that's important. So ensuring that we can build applications that sing on a 4 gig machine, but also scale up is key to why we're doing that. So to me and to us, this is why WinUI is so fundamental in building out this new platform delivery for Microsoft. So that's the key thing. That is really why WinUI is part of the Reunion family. Now, we often get asked, is Reunion the name? It's a project name. Well, that doesn't make much sense. And we're, this year we're going, I think it's on the next slide, Anna. We're iterating through 0.5, 0.8, all the way to 1.0 at the latter end of this year. And the goal there is to, for you to join us on that journey in the 0.5 and 0.8 and really give us feedback so that we deliver those features for 1.0. For our current plan for 0.5 and 0.8 is to keep the name Project Reunion, and we realize this does cause some challenges because we want to get the naming right for version 1.0. And as much as I would love to have the naming right just now, is ensuring that we have a durable name that doesn't change. And I do realize the irony of that because we're calling it Project Reunion and it will change. But we want it to be durable over multiple years. We want, whatever we call it, we don't want to. We realize that name changing and has a major impact in terms of developer productivity, but also developer understanding as well. So our goal is to have a durable name for 1.0, and we will be remaining on Project Reunion for 0.5 and 0.8. 0.8 is towards the middle of the year, this year, delivering on that. And we get questions about NuGet packages and how's that going to work. And we're working there such that when we do get to 1.0, that you'll be able to easily migrate over to the new name because that's the way that NuGet works. But existing projects will move forward. And so if you are using middleware that's using Reunion 0, the Project Reunion packages, and they haven't updated yet, our goal there is, our current thought is that we would have a Project Reunion version 1.0 NuGet package that really doesn't have anything in it, so that those middleware can upgrade gracefully, and then gradually move over so you don't have two copies of the runtime inside of your application. So that's why we're doing why WinUI is part of Reunion and the impact it's going to have on you. I realize we don't have a huge amount of time today, and it's going to generate a lot of questions. I'm happy to have our new platform as we deliver it, decoupled from Windows, which we're currently calling Project Reunion.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. I think could you just mute your volume? I hear my own echo. I just want to make sure we avoid that. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let's see. First of all, let me say that was awesome. I really hope that drove some clarity on why WinUI is shipping with Project Reunion and why we're so excited about it. But yeah, definitely follow up. We have a Q&A section at the end of this, and definitely follow up on GitHub if you have any more questions that Andrew can answer. So now we are moving on to our partner spotlight with Uno Platform. I am going to be introducing Jerome and Francois, who are two awesome people that are part of the Uno team. We've welcomed them on community calls before, and they are going to talk all about Uno and show you some really cool demos. So let me know when you guys have shared your screen, and then we can go ahead and start streaming that.
Thanks, Anna. I'm sharing my screen now, so you should see it.
Perfect.
So thank you all for taking time.
Sorry, just 1 second. We're a little bit laggy here with the screen share. I don't see your screen on here. Maybe you could stop presenting and start again.
Of course.
Thank you. Okay, awesome. We are good to go.
Awesome. So thank you all for taking time. First, but most importantly, happy St. Patrick's Day. Today, I'd like to take a few minutes before handing it over to Jerome with real live demos to just discuss and answer the obvious question as to why do we call the Uno platform a WinUI everywhere platform. And probably the easiest way is to provide a quick recap as to what Uno is, right? So Uno is a platform that allows you to combine the WinUI API with XAML and C# to create single code-based, pixel-perfect native apps across all the platforms that .NET can run on. So basically allows you to bridge WinUI to desktop, mobile, web, even IoT devices for that matter. Right? And how we're able to do that is by tapping into the underlying native UI systems. For example, on the web, we'll be running on top of .NET for WebAssembly, but we'll be directly communicating with the HTML DOM. On iOS, we'll be using the UI kit to render controls, and the same thing with Mac with the AppKit, even though ultimately we'll be leveraging Mac Catalyst at some point. And on Linux, it's something slightly different, but we're able to leverage Skia to render to a Linux backend using a GTK shell. So why we're doing this is, and just don't get me wrong, the idea behind this is not to create a web-based technology that gets wrapped into a desktop hybrid shell. It's not something mobile that we're extending or stretching to the desktop. It's really about leveraging everything WinUI has to offer in terms of desktop richness and bringing it to all the other platforms. So you will get access and control over pointer support, keyboard and focus management ultimately. All the rich desktop controls, maybe not pivot, but like the tab views and the data grids and the menus and context menus, all that you can have access to on desktop, you'll be able to bring to the web, to the other desktop platforms, and ultimately to the mobile devices as well. And besides just leveraging everything WinUI is building, it also allows us to tap into the rich third-party ecosystem. So you can run and leverage the Windows Community Toolkit, some partners like Infragistics and Syncfusion, but also leverage all the other open source libraries that have been built throughout the time on top of this ecosystem. Finally, and probably the greatest thing about it is it's free and open source to use, and you can start today. And just a little bit of background story about Uno. We started developing it internally at Inventive in 2013. We open sourced it in 2018 when WebAssembly came up. And then for last year, since we were probably 8, 9, 10 months ago that we were in community call, we've been keeping ourselves busy. So we shipped 3.0. We've added Android 10 and Android Linux backend. Where the team also added design team support, so you're able to run using your favorite design systems, and namely Material and Fluent UI. We .NET 5, added Android 11 support, brought in partners like Infragistics that Jerome will show you today. And we were even able to keep momentum and like bring day zero support for WinUI previews, and that's something we want to keep doing. So we have an upcoming 3.6 release where we'll align with WinUI 3-Reunion 0.5 release. I know it's a mouthful, but we'll also add other things. So we're bringing date pickers, like some of the key community requests. So all of the file pickers across all platforms, so open, save, and even folder pickers. We're adding a new theme, so a Cupertino-inspired design. We're adding OpenID Connect through the web authentication broker. We're working hard on revamping documentation to make it even more accurate and current. The team has been working hard on making sure that Windows Community Toolkit 7.0 would be supported. And finally, we're also leveraging all the Visual Studio improvements that the team has been working on to make sure that Uno provides as much.
Hey folks, technical difficulties over here. It looks like my team's call just dropped. I am trying to rejoin. Just give me a minute here. Sorry about this. Oh boy, let's see what I can do here. Just give me a few minutes. So sorry. All right.